You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, leave your comments below, and be sure to smash that like button.
We'll start with a story over on CBS. Will Backus put this together, and he was talking about win totals for Southeastern Conference teams coming up this fall. And there are a lot of moving pieces in the Southeastern Conference, both based on the structure of the league and based on the subtraction of Nick Saban from the league. And I think that things have kind of taken a different shape this time of year than really what we're used to. We are always used to Alabama's number being 10 or 11 and a half. That's just where we've always lived. At this point now, Georgia has joined them at the top of the league where you're looking at double-digit wins just by them falling out of bed. Like, that's it. Ole Miss is thought of a lot more highly than they really have been at any point in my watching the Southeastern Conference. You got to deal with Texas. Can they translate the success from the Big 12 over into the SEC? They stared down the big bad wolf in Tuscaloosa last year and won, but are you ready to do that in back-to-back years? What can we possibly expect from Oklahoma? I think they think they're going to be good. That's why they gave their coach a huge contract extension. LSU, kind of waiting in there. What do we expect from Auburn? I think there are a lot of moving pieces, and it just feels a little bit different this time around than it has in recent years. And I want to go through some of these numbers that kind of are fascinating to me. The first is Alabama. I just told you, their over-under is always 10.5 or 11.5. There is nowhere you can find action that would require them to go 9-3 to hit an under. And you're getting close to it. The over-under now is 9.5. And if you read this story on CBS, you're looking at losses to Georgia in Tuscaloosa, which is very reasonable, and a loss at Tennessee. Now, we know that happened 2 years ago, but that's not something that people would have been picking very often, quite frankly. And they do have Alabama beating LSU in Baton Rouge. They've got LSU winning in Norman at Oklahoma. They've got them beating Auburn. They've got them beating Wisconsin on the road. But you look at this schedule and you can pick apart some losses here for Alabama. And I think we're all really fascinated for the first time in 16 years to see what this looks like. Is there a drop-off? Do they maintain that machine? Caleb DeBoer checks a lot of boxes as a guy that will have a lot of success in Tuscaloosa. He's had a lot of success at low-level college football. He moved right on up to the middle of the pack in college football at Washington and replicated his success, all of it on the back of really one quarterback. Can he do it at the highest level of college football? It's interesting. Nothing was really interesting about talking about Alabama's preseason over-under for the last 15 years. This is. And then you start to look at Auburn, who I think people are struggling to get their arms around. Most people would suggest that Auburn is going to be a middle-of-the-pack team. But I think most people would also suggest that Hugh Freeze is a good coach. They're spending a lot of money in NIL. They're going to get good players, and he's going to coach them. Are they ready to do that now? That number's 7.5. I don't know that there's a lot of expectation on the Plains right now. And to me, I think a lot of it is around Peyton Thorne. I don't trust him very much. And we're going to get into that as we get into SEC Media Days. And that's just, I've seen Hugh Freeze win a lot of games with mediocre quarterback play. I don't think Bo Wallace was knocking down the door of the Heisman Trophy. But Peyton Thorne just doesn't do much of anything for me. And in this piece, they say, while Thorne himself may be a limiting factor after a lackluster debut with the Tigers, Auburn seems restocked enough to comfortably make a bowl game against a manageable schedule. So they got him over 7.5. I don't know how I feel about that. I will tell you how I feel about Florida, and they're going to fire their coach in short order. I'm not 100% sure Billy Napier's a bad football coach. In fact, I probably think he's not. But the deck of cards he got dealt in Gainesville is just not playable. You've been at blackjack tables where you lived with 15 and 16. He's had 15 or 16 at the blackjack table for 3 years. Part of that's his fault, part of it's not. And I think he's still sitting there with 16, and the dealer sitting across from him is got a jack. Like, they got to play Miami. They got to play at Florida State. They still play LSU. They got to go to Knoxville. They play Georgia away from home. They play Texas away from home. It's just not doable. And for the second consecutive year, Florida's over-under total is 4.5. 4.5. And right now, I think that you'd probably have to take the under, and that's what this writer has. It says, yeah, they'll beat Samford. They can go to Starkville and win in the Cowbells. Okay, Central Florida, that's a team they should beat. We'll see what Gus has to say about that. And they got them beating Kentucky, who I don't think is a pushover. It's in the swamp. But yeah, lose to Miami. Yeah, lose to A&M. Yeah, lose at Tennessee. Yeah, lose to Georgia in the cocktail party. Go to Austin and get beat. LSU goes to the swamp and wins. Ole Miss goes to the swamp and wins. You go to Florida State and lose on the road. Yeah. I'm kind of hoping selfishly that Billy Napier's just not there by the time LSU plays him. I think that's just have all that distraction. Under 4.5 is what they say about Florida, which is just not something that you could have forecasted. I'll get to LSU here, but there are a couple more that I find interesting. Missouri is interesting to me. He's got over 9.5. And to me, Missouri just has not quite earned that respect from me. I think Eli Drinkwitz is a good coach. I think Brady Cook's a good quarterback. Obviously, I think Luther Burson is a star, but you lose your defensive coordinator, and I just don't trust the talent level on that team to go through one season and play great and then do it again. And he says they lose at Texas A&M, they lose at Alabama, but they win the rest of them. And maybe I need to reframe my argument against Missouri from the talent on their team, and maybe I just need to look at the schedule a little more closely. No Georgia, no LSU, no Ole Miss, no Tennessee. Okay. Maybe it's more so about the schedule than the personnel. They'll beat Murray State, they'll beat Buffalo, they'll beat Boston College, they'll beat UMass, they'll beat Vanderbilt. Okay, well, you can sock 5 away there. But am I really ready to say, and I think they'll beat Arkansas, who I think is going to be terrible. But am I really ready to say they're going to beat Auburn, Oklahoma, at South Carolina, and at Mississippi State? They're going to win all those? I'm not. I just can't get there with Missouri. I think it's fascinating that that number's still so high. I just can't get there. And let's wrap things up with LSU. The number here is 9.5, and he goes over that 9.5. Says LSU's non-conference schedule is incredibly intriguing. Tigers play both Los Angeles-based Big Ten teams. There's a new change there. And they don't have to travel to California for either game. Vegas is close to California, but the point remains. 7 home games, and their 4 true road contests against the SEC that went 11-21 in conference play last year. They even get Bama at home. A 10-win regular season would be progress for Brian Kelly, though LSU's college football playoff fate may be out of their hands in that event. I would disagree with that. If LSU goes 10-2, I think they're in. Now, that's a lot of moving pieces. I can't tell you that with certainty, but I do believe that. And in this simulation here where he's got over 9.5, trying to get LSU to 10 wins. He's got to win over USC in Vegas, come home and beat Nichols, go to South Carolina and win. UCLA's here, got that as a win. South Alabama, and at Arkansas, plus Vanderbilt. And that's really those. If you're going to give me USC, I think the rest of those should be slam dunks. You can call me crazy for saying they're definitely going to go to South Carolina and winning, but I don't know if I trust that program either with the Jimmies and Joes. So the swing games are at A&M, which is not going to be easy. At Florida, we'll see what that program looks like at this point. I think A&M's a more difficult game. Oklahoma in Tiger Stadium the last night of the regular season. And then home games against Ole Miss and Alabama. And what an interesting thing it is to look at LSU's schedule and say that he's got LSU going over 9.5 with 2 home losses. That tells you what LSU's away from home schedule looks like. And whatever USC is in Vegas, you're talking about road conference games. South Carolina, Florida, and Vanderbilt, we don't think are going to be great. And then Texas A&M, who's got a new coach. All of this is interesting to me because it's, for the first time ever, framed in a different lens. If you go over 9.5, I believe you have a chance to play for a national championship. That has never been the case. You had to win 11 or 12 at LSU to win a national championship from this offseason to the beginning of time. There was no 10-2 getting you in anywhere until now. And I think it's good enough. If you can get over 9.5, I think you can play for a national championship. You can check out all those over-under numbers, and I think some more are interesting, but that's kind of the ones that I wanted to get to there at CBSSports.com. The article was written a little bit earlier today by Will Backus there at CBS Sports.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.